This is the 2021 Ford Edge Titanium. Now this thing did get a little bit of an upgrade for the 2021 model year. We've got some new badging on the outside, a few new features. The big one is going to be the new infotainment system, the new Sync 4 screen, which is going to finally give us Android Auto and Apple CarPlay that are wireless. So I love the fact we've now got that as an option. Now this is also the short video going over all of the highlights you need to know about the vehicle. If you're looking for that more in-depth look where we go through every little feature you might need to know, check down in the description below in order to get access to that full vehicle walk around. But let's have a little bit of fun, figure out what's new inside of the 2021 Ford Edge Titanium. Now starting off, taking a peek under the hood. Now a couple things to point out, the Ford Edge does technically have two available engine choices. The one that we're looking at is the 2-liter turbo. There is the option for the 2.7-liter, but you need to be in the Edge ST in order to get that 2.7. So in the 2-liter turbo, what we're looking at here is you can see easy access to a few things. We can easily top up and change some fluids if we need to. Easy access if we ever need to change our checker oil. We've got easy access to the battery if we ever need to give anybody a boost, and we've got our fuse panel access there as well. Nothing too much has changed underneath the hood there from the 2020 to the 2021 model year. It just looks very, very clean. Now, technology-wise, this is the 300 version of the vehicle. So we can go to the higher trim level, the 301A, but if we look at standard technology inside of the 300, so the Titanium, we've at least got our backup sensing system, we've got the reverse camera, and on top of that, we've also got the blind spot system. Lets us know if anybody's done the blind spot on either side of the vehicle, and there also is a lane keeping system. So when we get into the 301 version of the vehicle, we'll also have a forward sensing system and a front camera as well. So it's not a front 360, it's just gonna be a front 180. Very similar to what we would see inside of the Bronco Sport and what we saw in the 2020 Edge as well. But nice look to it at the end of the day. This is the new gray. So last year it was known as a carbonized gray, different color choices that are available this year, but this thing does look incredibly sharp. Now, from a towing perspective, if you're ever considering towing in the Edge, get the factory tow option. Couple reasons why. If you do it aftermarket, you're going to be maxed out at around 1,500 pound towing capacity. Getting it from the factory, we're welded onto the frame. We've got a nice cutout along the back there, so it just looks aesthetically more pleasing. And on top of that, towing capacity inside of this thing is going to be 3,500 pounds when you get it from the factory. So I definitely recommend looking at the factory option if you're ever going to be towing inside of the Edge. Now, getting inside of the trunk on this thing, there's a few different ways that we can do it. So if we start off looking on the key fob, if we double press this button, that's going to allow the trunk to open up. However, we've also got a button on the outside. So just underneath, as you can see there, we've got a little button there, so we can press that in order to open this thing up. But one of the nice things about the Edges is that, especially on the Titanium or the ST trim level, we've got a foot-activated power liftgate. So if for whatever reason you've got, well, maybe hands full of groceries, kids, whatever the case may be, all you're gonna do is just swipe your foot underneath and step back. As you can see, foot-activated liftgate. So taking a peek there, as you can see, we do have quite a little bit of space from a cargo perspective, so we can get tons of things inside of it. And as you can see there, we're a 60-40 split, so 60% driver, 40% passenger, so we can fold either side down if we need a little bit of extra space. Now taking a look at both seats folded down, so as you can see there, so a lot more depth inside of this thing, so if you need to carry a few more things, you've got the capabilities to do that. Now that's one of the nice things about the Edge compared to the Escape. You're gonna get infinitely more trunk space. And as I mentioned, 60-40 split, so 60% driver, 40% passenger, which is gonna give you the flexibility to fold down one seat or the other. But let's have a little bit of a closer look on the inside. All right, so a couple things to point out. Now, one of the nice things about the Edge Titanium is that we do have power seats for that third row. So it's power down and then manual up. So you've got the ability to easily fold them down if you'd like to manually. So let's actually show you how that process works. So just along the back there, as you can see, we've got a little lever. We're just gonna crank that lever up in order to fold that seat down. But if you're in the trunk, you don't need to go to the side. All you can do is either press and hold one of these sides. So if we press and hold left, look at that, power down, and then it's just manual to lift it back up again. Looking in the back, we've got a few cargo hooks. Along the other side, same thing. We've got a little bit of pocket storage in the back there. And we've also got, just to the right-hand side of those buttons, we've got a traditional cigarette lighter adapter. Now, as we start to look underneath here, as you can see, we do have that mini spare tire, and we also have a little bit of storage space along both sides. Now, if we want to close that liftgate again, we can double press on the key fob. There's a button along the top there, and there's also a button just to the left-hand side of the steering wheel. Filling up in gas in the vehicle is a very straightforward process. So if you take a look there, we've got a little button on the driver's side door. We're just gonna press that and that's gonna open up and we've got a capless system. So what we're gonna do is just insert your fuel hose, you're gonna fill up, and once you're set to go, you're just gonna click, lock it back into place, and you're set to go. From a fuel quality perspective, you just need to use your regular 87 octane, so just regular gas inside of this vehicle. Now taking a look at second row spacing, so I'm 6 feet tall, I've got the driver's seat set up for somebody who's 6 feet tall, I still have a ton of room in the back there for my knees, a ton of space for my feet as well. Now one thing to note, this one does have the twin panel sunroof, so the panoramic roof. I've got an inch or so, about an inch or so up overhead in this seat. So just definitely something to consider there. If you've got taller passengers, you might have to look at the option without the sunroof or get them to sit inside of the driver or passenger seat or in this middle row. Now we are in the 2021 model of the vehicles in the titanium. So the 300 pack of the titanium does not have heated second row seats. If we were in an option with those second row seats, it would be the driver and the passenger side. So that middle seat is not going to be heated whatsoever, unfortunately. Okay, now a couple other things to point out. So as you can see there along the bench seat in the middle, we do have a few cup holders, so we can just pull that down in order to reveal them and just lift it back up in order to lock it into place. Technology-wise in that back row, as you can see there, we've really got a few things. So not a ton of stuff, but we do have our USB port, so our traditional USB and our USB-C, as well as a 150 volt traditional wall outlet. So if you need to plug in an adapter, you've got the capabilities to easily do that. We've got pockets on both the driver and the passenger side, and a few speakers along the back there as well, and then a nice leather trim. Taking a peek along the driver's side door. So, few things to point out that are going to be different from the 2020 versus the 2021 model year. We're in the 300 version of the vehicle, which means that we don't have the telescopic power steering wheel standard. That we have to jump up to the 301 package in order to get that now. But we do have some things that are going to be the same. So we do still have our seat memory buttons. We've got the upgraded Bang & Olufsen sound system, and very straightforward, typical buttons that we would see there. The ability to adjust our side view mirrors, kill off power to those rear windows, and then the ability to adjust our windows as well. Got a nice leather trim along our side there, so along the driver's door, and that really carries through along the entire dash as well. One of the nice things, as I mentioned, we do have the seat memory buttons. So we do have the ability to program in our side view mirror as well as our driver's seat in order to be able to save up to 3 individual profiles. So you'd set your driver's seat, set your side view mirror, and then press and hold either 1, 2, or 3 in order to be able to set that profile up for yourself. Now, moving just to the left-hand side of the steering wheel, we've got a series of different buttons there. So first one, this is going to be for our fog lamps. So we've got the ability to turn our fog lamps on or off, and we've got a selector switch to let us know what's going on with our running lamps. So we can either have them off permanently, we can have them on permanently, or on auto. I do recommend keeping it on the auto setting, and the reason why is it's because it's automatically going to flip us between our daytime or nighttime running lamps, depending on how bright it is outside. We've got the ability to adjust the brightness of our screen, so our cluster screen there, we can make that darker or brighter. We can turn our traction control on or off, and we've also got the ability to either open or close our tailgate on the inside. As we start to move down, we've got a little fuse panel, and if we ever need to get into, or under the hood I should say, we've also got a release in order to be able to open up that latch. All right, now this is the new Sync 4 screen that we're going to find inside of the 2021 Ford Edge, and it's going to look the same way regardless of the trim level you're on. It doesn't matter if you're on the SC or the ST. We've got a great setup with a map. We've got some basic settings in our climate control along the bottom. In the 2020 Edge, it actually was a little bit lower for climate, so they've actually digitized it. It's now completely on the screen. It really does remind me of the Mustang Mach-E screen, the way that that looks. If you haven't seen the way that looks, drop down in the description below. I've done a full vehicle walk around, but this does remind me of that Mustang Mach-E screen. I love the look of it. It's nice and it just flows really well. It's pushed into the dash nicely. It's not overly awkward like you'd find in these larger phablet style screens. When it comes into features, this thing is extremely loaded. There's lots to cover off, so let's kind of dive into it a little bit at a time. Starting off in the car at the top here. So as you can see there, we've got some sound settings. So we've got the ability to change our treble mid-range bass. We've got our balance and fade as well, so we can kind of adjust as we want to. If we kind of mess up, we've got the ability to press this reset button, and that's just going to bring us back to center again. With audio, we've got a few different options there. We've got AM, FM, Sirius XM. We've got the ability to use USB as well. And we've got a number of different presets. So we've got a mix of AM, FM, Sirius XM, etc. And we can have up to 30 individual presets on this screen. And it can be a mix of all of them. We've got the ability to add an iPhone in very easily as well. We've got Apple CarPlay, which is great, and now in the Note 2021 Edge, we are wireless inside of this thing. We've got the ability to use Apple CarPlay, we can use Maps, we can use our Apple Maps, Google Maps, or Waze directly through this middle screen. I love the fact that we've got the capabilities to do that, and it lays out really, really nicely, and it looks great. On top of that, we've got the ability to use an Android device, and setting it up is the exact same process as the iPhone side of things, so we're just going into Bluetooth in order to set it up. And on top of that, we also do have wireless Android Auto, which works the exact same way as the Apple CarPlay side of things, so you don't have to worry about factory navigation. You can use Apple Maps, Google Maps, Waze, etc. directly through this middle screen. It's really, really nice that we've got that flexibility. For screen modes, we've got some different options. We've got an auto mode, a day mode, or a night mode, so some different options there, which is great. We've got some voice command settings as well, so we've got the ability to train our vehicle to listen to our voice in order to be able to activate some features, so make phone calls, navigate, etc. through that middle screen. We've got a hot button along the top there, which gives us access to the radio, phone navigation, and a number of other things. There is a digital owner's manual now, so if there's a certain button or something that you want to see what's going on, press the owner's manual and you're set to go there. We've got Ford Pass app, we've got LiveX Live, which is a radio app, so you can use that. Spotify directly through that middle screen. We've got the Waze app as well. We also do have a notepad, which is kind of cool, so we can kind of make notes as we go, like, oh, hello. It's kind of nice. Really, really simple to use that as well. On the top there, it's going to give us the ability to give us some tabs as well. So these are going to be hot tabs. They're going to let us go between what screens we've already previously gone to. So we've got different options there. Our climate settings are now on this middle screen as well. So we've got dual zone climate control, which means that we can easily adjust this as necessary. So if the driver, passenger like things a little bit warmer, colder, etc., we've got the ability to easily select that if we'd like to. Now, we've also got the ability to move into our basic settings as well, so we can turn the system on or off for our climate, and we've got the ability to turn on our heated steering wheel. We've also got a hotkey along the bottom as well in order to turn it on. On top of that, we've got our max air conditioning, and what's going on? Is the air blowing to our windshield face or to our feet? Let's hide this, and we've got dual zone climate control as well, so we can set it up for a different temperature for the driver versus the passenger side. Now, as we start to move down, so a few things to point out there. As you can see, we do have the ability to adjust our volume just on the left-hand side, and then we can turn the audio on or off. We've got our four-way blinkers, max windshield defroster, and then a hot button press in order to access our rear view camera. Now, one thing to note, this one strictly does have the rear view camera. In the 301 version of the vehicle, we would have a front-facing camera as well. It's not a full 360, it would just be a front and then a backup camera as well. As we start to move down, we can either change between radio stations or songs, we can play or pause, and then we can tune. So this tuning rocker is probably it's not going to be the most realistic way to tune, because we've got the ability to, as we press the button there. So as you can see there, we can kind of tune this way, we can do plus or minus, or the better way to do it, I should say, is going to be using this, so the voice button on our steering wheel. Now, as we start to move down a tiny little bit, now one of the nice things about the Edge Titanium is that it does have a wireless charging pad. So if you've got a phone that supports wireless charging, you're just going to drop your phone in there. And as you can see, well, you might not be able to see it from the direction I'm looking at it there, but we are charging up directly through this pad here, which is really, really great. We've got our USB ports, our traditional USB, and our USB-C. Now, on top of that, as you can see, we also do have a little storage area if we wanted to put our phone there. We've got a few cup holders, and we've got our shifter. So we've got the ability to change between park, reverse, neutral, drive, and then our sport mode. So sport mode, the vehicle itself actually does have paddle shifters, so our plus and minus buttons there. So when we're in the regular drive mode, we've got the capabilities to change out gears. When we're in the sport mode, it's going to hold those gears longer. As we start to move down, we've got our electronic parking brake, and we've also got our engine start-stop button there. Now, on top of that, one more, we do have another area to either store a phone, or if we've got some extras that we need to store in there. And flipping it around, as you can see, we've got a little storage area as well. So we've got a little removable tray, 12-volt adapter along the side, so traditional cigarette lighter adapter as well. Next up, let's take a look at the steering wheel. So a couple things to point out. We're in the 300 pack of the vehicle, and this specific one does not have the added package to get the adaptive cruise control system on. Now, if you're in the 301 version of the vehicle, you will have adaptive cruise, but as it stands, we're just looking at our regular cruise. So we've got our on-off switches. We can set or we can increase or decrease 1 kilometer or 1 mile per hour at a time. We can resume or we can cancel out the cruise control if we want to. Along the right-hand side, we've got the ability to either change between songs or radio stations. We can answer a phone call, or we can hang up on a phone call. And we've got the ability to either increase or decrease our audio. We can mute it out if we want to, or we've got a hotkey in order to press for our voice command prompts. So with that hot button press, we've got the ability to we can make a phone call, we can change radio stations, or we can navigate just by pressing that middle button. We've got some driver assistance settings, so things like the blind spot system, the cross traffic alert, driver alert, lane keeping system as well. So a lot of smart systems that are available inside of this vehicle. Lane keeping system works 3 different ways. It gives us either a little steering wheel shake, or it can actually recenter us and pull us back into our lane. So great setting there. And as we start to move overhead, so a few things to point out. Now this one here does have home link, so the ability to program in a garage door opener code at home. And moving down, as we can see there, we do have our mirror there with lights. We can crank this thing open, and we can slide it backwards a little bit if we want to block some sun out as well. Click that back up into place. Now, as you can see along the top, we do have a sunglasses holder, which is going to be traditional inside of Ford vehicles. We do have our cabin lighting controls, so we can turn on the lights individually. We can have all cabin lights on, and then whether or not the lights come on with the doors open. Now, these are going to be the controls for our sunshade. So we've got the ability to add this sunroof in. If we don't want the sunroof, these buttons just wouldn't be there. Without the sunroof, you're going to get about an extra inch or 2 up overhead as well. So that one, again, really going to be a matter of personal preference there. But it does really open the vehicle up quite a little bit when you do it. And you've got the ability to either pop it up a little bit in order to kind of create a little bit of an airflow, or we can open this window up if we'd like to. So really, really great look, and it really opens things up. But again, that one's going to be a matter of personal preference. Now, the other thing to point out, we do have an auto-dimming mirror there. So the auto-dimming mirror, really, really beneficial, because if the vehicle senses that there's a vehicle behind us with its lights a little bit too bright, it's going to automatically dim it for us, rather than that old-style flip switch that we would normally see along the bottom there. All right, folks, let's take this thing for a spin and see how it handles. Now this is, the 300 version of the vehicle. So 300 version of the vehicle is nice. It gives us heated front seats. Now the 301, if you were to look at that as an option, heated and cooled front seats. So you get a few other things inside of the 301, but really the heated and cooled front seats, one of the big ones. I mean, it's going to really ultimately come down to what's your budget, because if your budget doesn't have, in Canada, it's $5,000 to jump between the packages there. Do you need those extra fancier options that are going to be inside of the 301? It's going to be up to you. So we do have the power telescoping steering wheel that we're missing out on, the cooled seats, and a few others. Gonna try to blast through. No, he's stopping. All right. So the 2-liter turbo, the Ford engine, like this thing it's powerful. Like 250 horsepower, 280 pound-feet of torque, like plenty powerful from that perspective. If you're looking for something with a tiny little bit more, well, significantly more kick, you could look at the Edge ST. It's got a 2.7-liter engine in it instead. But I'm gonna be completely honest with you, like the 2-liter turbo, the way that it sits as a default, is actually pretty powerful. So you may not necessarily need to go to that Edge ST. You will have a little bit of a more aggressive look, but you've got the ST line, which essentially is just the regular SEL that's kind of fancied up, and it's got the look of the ST instead. So something to consider, but it is comfortable. I love it. Visibility wise, like I've got it is fairly open. Now that's one of the nice things about the Edge compared to the Escape. You seemingly have more vision on the outside and the inside of the vehicle here. Like just kind of looking around, I've got easy access. Like looking in the back there, you can just kind of make out there's a little bit of an obstruction there, obviously just because of the nature of the way the vehicles are designed, but it's full, it's bright, it's open. It's nice. Got the blind spot system going on there, letting me know that somebody's entered the blind spot on that side of the vehicle, so that's really nice to know that it's there. Lane keeping system is turned on as well, and I believe I've got it set for the alert and the aid. So I'll get a little bit of a steering wheel shake as I go if I start to veer over without signaling. Whoa. It's got a little bit of guts to it. I'll take that. All right. Now, one thing to note, so I do have the auto engine start-stop that's also turned on right now, which means that we might lose power to the engine. It's really up to the vehicle when it wants to do that. It doesn't kill power every time. One thing to note is that you will need to have your engine, so at least it needs to be at least like warmed up properly. And on top of that, if you've got the air conditioning going or if you've got the heat going, it may not necessarily turn off either. So it kind of depends on what you've got going on inside of the vehicle, and that's going to determine whether or not that auto engine start-stop kicks in instead. All right, so let's adjust some things. Auto engine starts on. That's why I'm literally talking about it, and the thing's already turned off on me there. But you do have that flexibility to make sure that that doesn't come on. Or doesn't come on? How would that work? It doesn't come on, so the system doesn't turn off. So however you want to look at it, you've got the capabilities to toggle that system off if you want to. This thing just flies. That's really nice. Okay, now, unfortunately, this is not the 301 version, and we don't have that added package to get the adaptive cruise control system on. Honestly, like, do you need adaptive cruise control? No. If you don't really use cruise control anyways, you're not going to miss it. But I personally love the adaptive cruise control system. It's a set it and forget it cruise control. You set it at, let's say, 100 on the highway. If the car in front of you slows down, yours is automatically going to brake. If they pick up speed or get out of the way, yours will automatically pick back up to that set speed again. So it's really, really nice to have that system. Regardless, you're going to have at least your normal cruise control if you want to run off of that system instead. Now, one thing to note, this one does have the cold weather package on it. So the cold weather package is going to give us the heated steering wheel. And on top of that, we've also got the thermoplastic floor liners. So those rubber liners, really, really simple to like take them off and then in order to like clean them off. So again, whether you get that one or not, it's your choice. There is a nice one that's available through WeatherTech, which is another, same thing, thermoplastic rubber tray. It's just a different style tray. So it's going to be a matter of personal preference there. So I've got the lane keeping system turned on, and it's turned on for the lane centering as well. So I love it. I love how simple it is. It picks up that I'm kind of starting to veer over, and then it automatically just adjusts. It takes over the steering wheel and recenters me. So it's a really, really smart system from that perspective. And then honestly, like if you tie those two systems together, so the lane keeping system with the lane centering system, and then the adaptive cruise control, you've essentially got a self-driving car, which is really, really cool. So it's ultimately going to depend on whether or not you want that feature, but I personally love them. But if you're like dead set against having the vehicle drive for you, if you have one with the adaptive cruise on, you can turn the adaptive cruise off if you want to. You don't have to use the lane keeping system. We can toggle that one on or off as well. It's going to be a matter of preference. But one of the nice things about the system is that if for whatever reason, maybe you lose focus for a brief second with the lane keeping system, it's going to keep you in your lane. So that's one of the benefits there. And then on the adaptive cruise control side of things, one of the reasons why I love that system is because it's a psychological game. Bear with me for a second. Here we go. So the psychological side of things. So if you have a tendency to have a heavy foot, the adaptive cruise control system is literally a lifesaver, well, a pocket saver. And here's why. If you set it for, let's say, 120 kilometers an hour on the highway, and the car in front of you is going slower, yours is automatically going to brake as well. So subconsciously, you're like, well, I set cruise control at 120. And I should be going 120. So like psychologically, you're like, okay, you know what? I'm going the speed that I should be set at because the vehicle is driving safely for you. And this is really where cars are going with self-driving automation and things like that as well. We are going to see more of the self-driving side of things. Now, I'm the type of driver where I've always been like dead set against a self-driving car as well. But here's the kicker. One of the big benefits of self-driving cars is that traffic would pretty much be a thing of the past. Because think about it, you've got electronic brains, and these cars will be able to talk to each other as well. So you'll be able to easily zigzag in and out of traffic because the car is literally going to be doing all the work for you. So it takes away that idea of human error. Now, having said that, are those self-driving cruise or car systems perfect as of yet? No, but we're getting there. But is a self-driving car typically going to be able to drive a little bit better than most people will? Absolutely. Here nor there, Ford's not at the fully self-driving side of things as of yet. The Mach-E and the 2021 F-150 have some self-driving features that are available late 2021. So those options will be there eventually, but they're not here as of yet. So self-driving, kind of, sort of, almost there. Who knows what's coming next, but this thing drives really, really well. It drives comfortably. Now, one thing to note, because of the platform that we're in, we don't have the gear shifter anymore. So the Edge no longer has the gear shift. So if you have a tendency to kind of rest your hand on a gear shifter, just knowing you're not going to be able to do that inside of this thing, it just doesn't exist anymore. So that's probably one of the biggest things I had to get used to in the majority of Ford vehicles, because there's no gear shifter anymore. It's just that rotary dial to switch between active gears. So it's definitely one thing to take into account there. So going over a road with a little bit of a rougher patch there, and it's still, you can feel it a bit, but the suspension is great. It's a new suspension system, obviously, because the car's got 12 kilometers on it. So it's in pretty good shape from that perspective. Now, this car itself, it does have the pre-collision assist system, which I have not tried, and I don't plan on trying that anytime soon. And the big reason why is because you pretty much have to hit somebody in order for the system to work. Because what'll happen is the front sensors will notice if you're coming too close to a vehicle in front of you, and then it'll automatically pre-charge and slam on the brakes for you. So just knowing that the system is there, you've got the flexibility to turn that system off as well if you don't want it. I know some people, you may not necessarily be sold on that pre-collision assist. Just knowing that you've got the flexibility to be able to turn it off if you're not really sure, or you just want to make sure that you don't use that system. You've got the capabilities to do it. So. It is a comfortable ride, though. Very, very comfortable. I honestly, I love the spacing of the Edge compared to the Escape. So it's ultimately going to depend on what type of spacing do you need for your own personal needs. But like I said, I personally prefer the spacing of the Edge. I'm a taller guy, wider shoulders, so for me, this would make sense. But I don't know, if you're, 5 feet, the Escape might actually be a better fit for you, just the way that it feels. But it's ultimately going to depend on how much space do you need in the trunk, because you will get about an extra foot or so in the Edge in comparison to the Escape. So definitely something to take into account there. Power-wise, if you were to look at the Escape, it's either going to have a 1.5 liter turbo or the same 2 liter turbo that we're driving in this one. If you go up to the Explorer as an option instead, because you need a bit more spacing, there's only a 2.3 liter engine available on that one. This is comfortable, though. I love the feel of this thing. Like I said, if I were to go between Escape versus Edge versus Explorer, I would most likely give the benefit to the Edge, because it's quick, it's nimble, it's got good power to it, it feels great. The big thing's going to be, do you need a 5-seater? Do you need a 6 or a 7-seater? Because if you need that 6 or 7-seater, the Explorer is really going to be your only option. So it's going to ultimately depend on what do you need. Well, folks, that was a look at the 2021 Ford Edge. What did you think? I personally love it. I love what they've done with that new Sync 4 system, but that's a matter of personal preference. If you have any questions, drop down in the comment section below and let me know. If you enjoyed the content, give it a thumbs up, think about subscribing or sharing it with your social networks. And until I see you next time, make sure you stay safe.